Yo, what is up? How's everyone doing? Just getting my stuff together here. Give me one sec, guys. I'm still scrambling a little bit. Not too bad. Not too bad though. Just getting the rest of this stuff organized so we can jump right into it. What am I looking for? Trading view. Yeah. All right. Got trading view queued up. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Perfect. All right. Well, look, let's get into some of this stuff. I see some of you guys have already jumped in here. We got Cade first, followed by Carl here with the comments. What's up, fellas? Let me double check something really quickly. Yeah, we should be good. Yeah, hopefully that's good right there. All right. Well, let's kick this off. So as people are jumping in here, I got this shared out now. But I think we can jump right into it. I'm going to turn this background music down just a little bit. I like it on because it helps me not have just dead silence in my headset when I'm talking to you guys, but could maybe go down just a tad bit. There we go. That probably sounds good right there. Cool. So guys, welcome to another round of these Tuesday live crypto market analysis shows that we do here, crypto market scans, crypto market reviews, whatever you want to call them, right? But essentially every week on Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern here on Wolf Bitcoin, sponsored by our friends at Ostium. By the way, use code WOLFB if you haven't checked out Ostium. There is a link down in the comments of this stream, not in the chat, in the comments of the stream. There is a link, so you can go check out our friends at Ostium, code WOLFB. But yeah, we do these shows every single week. And really, we just look at BTC. We kind of cover how the week opened. We look at maybe what we're seeing here for kind of this midweek move, which tends to happen because at the beginning of the week, you kind of give you get like this like manipulated move where a lot of times it's like a fake out. And I don't mean manipulation like there's a boogeyman out there trying to get us. I mean manipulation in the sense that it's trying to trap traders in some direction. So there's a manipulation that happens in that sense. And then once some liquidity is built up, seems they take it the other way. So we're kind of watching here. You know, I've got BTC up on the screen, but we can see, I mean, was this the manipulation move? Basically, you know, last week had this big short squeeze, came down significantly after that. Was this just an attempt to trap more traders on the wrong side of this before we go lower? I think there's some stuff we can break down. We can look at that scenario. But is there also the potential that, you know, this maybe comes down a little bit, but then we have another push, which could even come up here a little bit higher than maybe a lot of people are expecting. So we'll break that down. We'll take a look at some of those scenarios here for BTC. You know, we'll quickly page over to Ethereum, Solana, some of those, but mainly keeping it Bitcoin focused, just to try and get a little bit of direction here. And look, if you're a Bitcoin holder, if you're just a long-term investor and you mainly just buy on good dips, hopefully some of the stuff that we're going to cover on these shows every single week, maybe it just allows you to be able to recognize where those better long-term buying opportunities might be presenting versus where, you know, maybe you hold off a little bit in that sense. So, but look, nothing that we really talk about on this show is meant to be taken as any kind of financial recommendation or advice to buy or sell. This is just purely me sharing my own thoughts, my own analysis of how I'm looking at the chart, where I'm maybe thinking about some of these things through that lens for myself, and really just covering the data that is on the chart. So just reading the facts that are on the chart and sharing my opinion on it. So with that though, let's maybe jump into a little bit more depth here with BTC. So let me switch over to a more full screen presentation here. Let me actually move myself out of the way a little bit more. There we go. That should give a little bit better view. So this should be a little bit easier to see for you guys. But look, this morning, and again, this, you know, a reminder, if you're not tuning in and if you're interested and you're not tuning in to the daily market talk and trader talk spaces that are hosted on Wolf Bitcoin every single day, pretty much actually it's every day except for Saturday. It really is every day except for Saturday. There's some form of a trader talk, market talk space that is happening. and traders and investors and just participants in the market come up and share what they're doing that week, what they're seeing and how they're playing it. So, but this morning, look, we were talking about this potential move up here into this zone. We were still down here in like the low 70s. We did just recently get that final move up. We are pulling back from it, but overall, you know, BTC is still very much just in a large sideways range. Look, I mean, this is basically your range. You know, if you want to keep it simple, this is essentially your range. So until something changes here, we're pretty much just going sideways. We are pinned up against this big higher time frame area. So this like 72 to 75, 76 zone, that is a big zone. It's a zone that we do need to pay attention to. It is significant. So look, it's essentially where back in 2024, BTC kind of hit a wall and essentially went sideways for most of that year up until the election. The election gave BTC that breakout move that it needed. But yeah, this was the ceiling. It ended up becoming a nice point of support back in April of last year of 2025. After we had that big correction down, this was where it bounced. And we're now back below that. So you have to look at this zone as this is a very important support resistance area on a high time frame over a long period of time, where, you know, typically it does tend to repel price, if you want to think of it that way, right? Much like a magnet. So if you're coming into that zone from the top, more often than not, it provides a bit of cushion. It provides some support. But if you're coming into the zone from the underside, it can provide a bit of stickiness, a little bit of resistance on the way up. So just something to be aware of. And after a move like this, you know, we have lost this support that we saw back in April of last year. That's no longer there. We're too far away from and too much time below that zone for us to be looking at that as support. We have to look at it as resistance until we reclaim that zone. And it's not to say that reclaiming it is impossible. It certainly is a possibility, but we need to wait till we see that happen on these charts. So, yo, we got Trader Steve in the house. What's up, brother? When Pump says Cade. Yeah, look, we'll talk about that, dude, because I do think there is a scenario that it can get above that like 74K zone and what that might open up in terms of upside, right? So let's definitely peel that back a little bit and take a look at that. We got TSN in the house. What's up, TSN? We got Beansy, huh? I think this is Salty on X, if I'm not mistaken. What's up? What's up? So we got some people jumping in here. So yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what happens if this rejects, you know, where we need to ideally be looking. Hey, if this does reject and we get another big leg down, where does that leg down potentially take us? And then if this was to be reclaimed, even if it's just in the short term, what does that potentially open up for BTC to the upside? I think those are both conversations that we need to have. And look, I mean, just for the sake of, you know, I hate those videos that kind of lead you on and you got to watch the whole thing and find some random point in the middle to give you the information that you wanna get from that video. Just give me the info up front, and then if I'm interested in hearing the why and the how, you know, I'll stick around. So in that spirit, we'll start to the downside. If we were to get a rejection here from this zone, you know, obviously, like initial targets are looking at some of these recent lows. So like 62K and 60K, you know, we would definitely be looking at those in case a rejection here simply gives us some kind of a sweep of that. And then we can reclaim it and then go for a second attempt at that level. Like that's kind of the first thing we're looking for is we're looking for a continued opportunity to keep putting some pressure on this level. If we can't find some type of support down here on this move, and if instead it rejects and it breaks down and we start to see some weakness, then we look over here to this consolidation range from 2024, and we're kind of eyeing some of the lows from that. You know, we're eyeing this kind of lower side of that structure here. So you know, pretty easy. You can kind of just look at some of this and say, okay, what's that lowest wick? 49K. Okay, What about some of these other wicks over here? It's like, okay, they're in the 50s. So this next move, then ideally, you could probably put like a little bit of like a zone over here and just say, okay, I'm looking somewhere down here. You'll notice this is where I have that low volume area right here, but somewhere in the kind of high 40s to low 50s. That's kind of where that next zone is. If you're looking for a rejection up here, you're kind of looking down there. Okay. Now, if we don't reject, or let's say it does reject, but it maintains this higher low structure, meaning, kind of this like flat top ascending floor. If we were to see that, like if it does reject up here and we just see this push down, we could continue to kind of just range in here and compress a little bit. It could keep coiling up. And then at some point, if you're able to reclaim that, I do think there's a decent chance you come at least to the lows of this range up here, which is the range we were in from November through January. I think you'd at least come to the lows, maybe the midpoint of that range, which puts you at, kind of like, low to mid 80s up to even 90K or so. And we just have to keep in mind that even if this comes all the way up here, this can come as high as 98K. But if it doesn't, if we don't really get a strong move above or a close above this high from back in January, ultimately anything up here is still really just a continuation of lower highs. Like we're still just seeing lower highs, right? Now, that doesn't mean that this couldn't come up here and then come down, because at that point I'd be interested in, is this going to flip back to support? If we were to see something like that, right, then I'm interested in, okay, does this like 74K area turn back into support? If it did reject up here, does that now come down? And then now we've got two beautiful points down here that are now showing us a higher low structure. And then that gives us the ability to kind of push up, take that out finally to the upside, and then start sending some structure for a bit of continuation of the upside. So certainly it's in the cards. But those are essentially the two scenarios that I really see. Is either I think we're gearing up to try and make a move down here into these kind of high 40s, low 50s, or the next area I'm really interested is up here, mid 80s to low 90s. I want to see what happens on a push up there. Again, though, the criteria is, we're looking at this 74K zone and we want to see what happens there. Rejection ticks off, ticks off the probabilities of a move lower. If we can somehow push through and start to build up some support, find acceptance above that, then you're looking to the upside, right? And we take it just a level at a time, level by level. Ultimately, you're going to get structure. Just like you have structure here that's putting lows and then lower highs and then lower lows, right? Just like you're getting structure there. At some point, you're going to see structure change where you'll get a higher low and then you'll be looking for a higher high, right? And so you'll know that some of the structure is now shifting and changing. That time just isn't yet, but we could be working up towards that. Hey, appreciate that. Says always good info from this group, and that's speaking to the amazing group of Wolf Bitcoin traders, investors, contributors, just the general Wolf Bitcoin community. So fully agree with that. Fully agree with that. So that's my read, at least, like my quick high level read on BTC. We'll get into more of the dynamics of how those moves could play out. What are some factors that might maybe give a little bit more probability to one versus the other? Sideways till the oil runs dry. That's funny. We could also stay sideways here for a while. Yeah, you imagine, man. You imagine we get another year of this. Oh, that would be brutal. That would be brutal. You imagine that? I mean, it's just, we get I don't know, at least a summer of just basically this here before something breaks, and then we get a little bit of clarity of trend. But this is a possibility, I guess. So in reality, there's three. Like, we could be going lower, we could be going higher, or we could just be chopping and ranging here for a while. We could just be hanging out here for a while. Absolutely. The longer we hang out here, though, I will say, I think in at least the way I like to think about it is, the longer we hang out here, the more time we spend here, even if we do get a move lower into some of the liquidity from this previous zone back here, all of this consolidation, it highly, in my mind and based on my analysis, it starts to highly increase the chances that we're looking to form some type of low here, as opposed to looking at like significant levels to the downside, like in the 30s or anything like that. So would definitely be interesting to see how all of that plays out. And I mean, look, I mean, even if we look over here to this side, here, let me go to like a 3-month chart. Uh-oh, what did I do? I accidentally went to crude. I'm going to go to 3-month chart on a BTC. Look, this is an interesting zone here that we're kind of tapping into. But these highs on a quarterly basis, you essentially had this little zone here that we came down to, right? It was like the highs of 2021 with the low here of that consolidation in 2024 that we were just looking at, right? That 8-month sideways range. There is some confluence here. So even if this does, if this kind of chops here and just builds up some acceptance here, right? Continued acceptance where people say, yeah, you know what, this is a fair value for BTC. BTC, I'll pay, anywhere in here, I'll pay, 60 to 70K for it all day, every day, because I think that's a fair value for it at this time. It does increase the chance that it's going to support, that it is going to hold there. Let's look at a 6-month chart real quick. On the 6-month, like down here is kind of that next big level I'll be watching on a 6-month, which is that 48, right? It's right at that 48.50K. And then on a 12-month, yeah, I mean, on a 12-month, yeah, that's basically where you're kind of looking, is that zone there, and then potentially even the bottom of this this 1-year candle here, this 12-month candle, which is right at 38K. Let's go back to a weekly. So, I mean, those are kind of your horizontals right there that you really want to pay attention to for BTC. Kind of right where we are, squished between, this support right below us at around 60K, this resistance above us at about 74. We're right kind of in the middle of that, just like we were back here, except now because of this consolidation, this support is even more important. And then if we were to lose that, this zone down here could get interesting, which is right below, right where this liquidity is going to be from this entire range. So if we were to get a move down, something like that could be interesting, and then see if we can't climb our way back up. This down here is a deep discount. If for whatever reason we get that move to 38, 39K, that's a deep discount. It's a deep discount. If you're bullish on BTC, you'll want to be paying attention. Now, a lot of people right now are kind of speculating that BTC, where we currently are, is roughly right here, this little spot of 2022. So we'll spend a little bit of time there. But a lot of people are speculating that that this is kind of where we are right now. Stablecoin dominance chart also gives a little bit of confluence to this idea as well. So we can look at that briefly here a little later. But this is where people are kind of saying like, hey, we're here. If there's going to be one more move down, maybe that's the move that gives us, our entries down here near this liquidity. One tool you can kind of use just for fun. I wouldn't recommend you really put a lot of weight on it, but it's more just for fun. You can come in here, you can grab this bars pattern, and you could say, okay, if we were to break down from that zone, like what does that look like? So you basically go to that candle, and then you can kind of highlight this entire move down here as it bottomed, and it'll give you a copy paste of that. It'll give you a quick little replica of it, and then you can come over here and you can put it in and say, what would a move like that potentially look like? Notice that it plays really well within these zones that we highlighted. I mean, if we kind of come over and we place this right there, it really does play pretty cleanly. Let's grab the entire move starting with this red candle, and I'm just going to overlay the bars pattern with this candle and this one here, just for making it a little bit easier here. So I'm going to grab all of that. So then I'm going to overlay that with this red candle roughly where it started. I mean, that's pretty clean. That's pretty clean. You know, might we be getting something similar to that? I think that's kind of interesting to look at. What do you guys think? Would y'all buy that? If we're gearing up here sometime soon to kind of see this next drop down into this next range, because that's really what Bitcoin does, right? Is, and all of these assets that have really clean structure like Bitcoin does, if you'll notice, is all it really does is it builds a range, and it trades inside that range until it's ready to go to the next range, and then it builds another range, and it trades inside of that range until it's ready to go to the next one, and then it builds a new range that it trades within. Then it goes up, forms a new range, goes up, forms a new range, you know, and it will just do that. And that's essentially what you're going to do the downside, right? It broke down, formed horizontal range, broke down from that. Now we're getting another horizontal range. If this breaks down, we're just going to form another horizontal range, right? Until it bottoms. At some point, these bottom, and then they start working on reclaiming these ranges one at a time. Then it'll go up, and then it'll work on reclaiming that range one at a time. That's how market structure works. Like for those of you who don't really do a lot of technical analysis and don't really spend a lot of time with the charts, that's all this is. That's all it really is. I know a lot of people call it astrology and a bunch of other names and drawing lines and squiggles. Sure, maybe it's a bit of all of that. But what it is it's recognizing, it's observational analysis is what it really is. It's observational, situational, environmental analysis of the price chart. And the price is telling you everything. The price is telling you if people are bullish or if people are bearish. The price is telling you if it's at a discount or if it's at a premium. The price is telling you if, you know, if there's greed or fear in the market. So there is value to be found in looking at the price chart. And so being able to use our eyes and our brain to not look for patterns. Like, we're not looking for anything predictive in the sense, but we're looking to just recognize, like, what is happening right now? What is happening right now? What current range are we in? And if it were to break to the downside, where's the next range to the downside? If it were to break to the upside, where's the next range to the upside? Just so we can be prepared. Just so we can be prepared and we can know how to best participate with these assets at any given price, right? At a higher price and at a lower price. We can then form a plan on how we will be participating. Give me one sec, guys. I want to stand up real quick. All right, I'm back, guys. I am back. All right, let me know if you guys are following along, though. Does this make sense? Why we look for ranges and how we zoom out to like a 3-month or a 6-month chart and how we try and identify where we might have a zone so we can then kind of predict where these next ranges might be forming. Is this stuff making sense? Is this stuff you already know? I mean, maybe this is stuff you already know and you're just here for the vibes. Or are you learning something because you're new, or you're just a buyer at any level and it doesn't matter, right? And you don't really care. I'm okay with that take as well. You could care, you could care either way, right? Care or not care, Amp with the repost. Appreciate you, man. Good reminder. If you're on here, if you're watching, if you enjoy these types of shows, these types of streams, and you get value from this type of stuff, I mean, the easiest way to support us, other than going to the links that we drop below the videos and supporting us through the sponsors like Ostium, a really easy way to support us other than clicking links is give it a like. Make sure you're giving these streams a like. Make sure you're giving them a repost. Come in, engage, drop some comments. That's why we do these. We do these hopefully to provide a little bit of value. Sometimes it's educational value. Sometimes it's entertainment value. I think we're okay with either one. You're following. Need muscle memory though. Yeah, dude. I mean, this stuff is just all about repetition, man. It's just constant repetition. And a lot of it is even just checking ourselves on a daily basis. Like I'm not at a point as a trader where I don't make mistakes. I'm not at that point. I still make mistakes. I have to check myself all the time. It's like, why am I buying this? This is like not the place to be buying this, or this is a horrible trade. Why am I taking this trade? I have to remind myself to zoom out. So I'm not at that point where I'm like a robot or a perfect execution machine that just never gets anything wrong. It's not me. I don't doubt that there's some people out there that probably fall into that description, but it's not me. And these streams, they help me tremendously because it helps me to kind of remind myself of where we are. It puts the levels back in front of me, and the fact that I have to talk to this stuff makes sure that that I've thoroughly gone through it and really understand what I'm looking at. So this could be interesting here on BTC. We'll put that up for now. We'll put these circles away as well. Let me know also if you guys would there be value for those of you that are maybe a little bit newer to TradingView? Would there be value in doing an educational I don't want to say like a tutorial for TradingView, but maybe we just pull it up and we talk about the different like drawing tools. I don't know all of them. Like there's a lot of these that I don't use. Primarily I don't use them, but then I also I don't really know how to use them well. Doesn't mean they don't have an application. It's just it's not something that I'm using in my analysis. But there's a lot that I can definitely share the ones that I do use, at least some of the basic ones. And we can cover like how to mark up a chart, how to do basic markup like this, just identifying support resistance zones, how to put lines maybe on levels that are important, how to build templates that you can just right click and give these things a template. Like I've got template for these rectangles here. They can be a gray box, they can be support area, they can be resistance area. They can be a lot of things. It could be a yellow box if for some reason sometimes I use a yellow box for some of the stuff that I do. It can be like a liquidity zone. So we can talk about how to build those. We can talk about some of the indicators that I'm using. I'm happy to do that as well. Also how to like maybe build watch lists, how to work with the object tree and different stuff, how to manage this, put it into like folders. There's a lot on TradingView. TradingView does a lot. I'm just scratching the surface. Alerts are a whole different thing as well. Like how to set alerts, how to manage alerts. There's a lot you can do in TradingView. How to have multiple windows, how to have multiple layouts, how to customize this stuff. Just let me know. I'm curious if there's like an audience for that or a market for that's interested in learning TradingView from like a very basic level. I don't know that I would want to do it on this show, this slot. I want to keep it for analysis, but maybe it's something that we can fit in at some other time, different time slot or something. Or maybe even do like a once a month Saturday or Sunday webinar of sorts, like an educational show, right? Where we break down some of that stuff on a weekend. TSN says yes for the key stuff that I use. Cool, man. Yeah, happy to do that. Carl says yes. GM Ash. Carl says RSVP'd. Yeah. Yeah, look, and I think it'd be a good opportunity for those of you that also have friends, contacts, colleagues, associates, whatever, that also are interested. You can invite them onto that type of stuff, right? You can bring them in, and we can go over some of that stuff. So yeah, keep an eye out for that one. Maybe I'll set something up. Let me think a little bit more about how we can structure that. But I think maybe starting with a once a month Saturday, where it's a little longer, maybe it's a couple hours that we set aside. or at least a couple back to back, where we maybe do one early morning, break for lunch, come back. Late morning, break for lunch, and then come back like early afternoon or something. Yeah, Andrew says he'd be down for that. Okay. So maybe we'll do something like that. Happy to, actually we could probably do that with Ash when we do the weekend shows with Ash. We could maybe get into some of that stuff as well. But anyways, let's zoom back in here. Is there anything else on the 3 month that I needed to look at for BTC on a quarterly? No, not yet. I don't think so. It is interesting, though, that on the quarterly, it came down to that quarterly 21 EMA, and it's trying to get back above that 13 EMA on a quarter. 71,667 is the level to be above to close above this here. And there's 21 days left in that quarter. Pretty sure by the end of it, there's a decent chance we'll be above the 21. I'm just curious if it would close above the 13 again. 12-month chart, though, one thing I will say is so far this is playing out pretty much like we talked. When you have a big directional move like this, and then you get this type of reversal candle, right? This type of close, whether you get this on a 5-minute, 4-hour, 1 day, or a 12-month chart, it doesn't matter. This here, this is screaming reversal, because not only did it sweep the high of this previous candle, in this case the previous year, it swept previous year high, but it failed to close above it, and it actually closed back inside the body of that previous 12 months. So that's pretty telling. That's pretty telling that that there's a decent chance that we're still trading inside of the previous 12-month range, which means all of this is fair game. And more often than not, you do see moves to the bottom of that 12-month range. And the bottom of that 12-month range is right here, 38 to 42-ish. So, yeah, the 12-month is pretty telling. But again, 12-month is like there's 9 months left, 9 months and 22 days. Could it take 9 months and 22 days to get down here? Yes, it could. It could take 3 months. It could take 6 months, right? It could take some time to get down there, to travel that entire path. But this is pretty telling. This is pretty telling. More often than not, when you get that type of price action, it goes that way. One example of it is right here on BTC. This is just an inverted version of it. There's actually 4 examples of it here, but this is an inverted example of that. If you flip that over and you're looking at this is essentially what BTC did on the 12-month. You had a big push up. Next 12-month candle closed inside of that first 12-month candle. And then what did it do? It went to the bottom of the range, right? So we could be preparing to see something like that, but on a larger 12-month scale. So we'll see if that's the case. Are we still coming down off of that move higher? A little bit. It's climbing back up. So even right now with BTC, it is important. I do have a short position open. But even with that position open, this here is still respecting structure, right? You can tell that this is still a higher high. This is still higher lows. We still haven't really broken down there. So, but what we are getting though, is we're getting key pieces of information here so that we'll be able to know. We know if this next move up goes above here, that this is still uptrending. We're still getting higher highs, right? So we need to, if that happens, even if it just goes slightly above and starts coming back down, we know that there's a decent chance that we can be expecting a higher low still, right? And the invalidation for that, right? We know that something has changed if this goes above here and then the next move after that takes out that low. Because then you have to ask yourself, well, why did we set a new high if we're now setting a new low? Like we're not even keeping that structure there, right? Or this comes up and you start rounding off before that. Then you start thinking, okay, what's changing now? We were making higher highs, right? We're going higher, 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 higher. Why are we now putting in lower highs? And so that happens. You start saying, okay, where's my last low? Right here. Okay, that's my last low. Now we're watching this because if price comes below that, now we have lower highs and we now have established lower lows as well, which means we could be in a little, at least short-term downtrending structure, right? So we just take it a level at a time and a little piece of information at a time. Still could come up here and tag some of these overhead levels. It's a bit wacky up here at the moment, but I'm thinking one more wave up. Yeah, I kind of agree with that, Ash. Even though I did take that short, I'm kind of in the same boat. Appreciate that. Yeah. It's pretty clear. It's pretty clear. Like this is the benefit of getting more information. Is you might say, like this is, this is choppy. It's like but it's also giving you information. It's giving you a ton of information. The reason I was able to enter short here, and I shared this in the DM group, was look, we saw this big move up here that took these highs, but then it was just sitting here. It was just sitting here, going sideways, right? And what it did is it established, you can see it better on a 5-minute, but it established a very clear floor. Very, very clear floor here. Had clear ceiling as well, but you had this clear floor. And essentially what I shared with the group was, I may have deleted it, but I basically said, look, if this thing breaks down, if you break that floor and then you get a touch of this zone from underneath, that's the short. That's where we take the short. You take the short here, stop above there. You're looking to see if you can't get it to take out that low. And that's essentially what we played. So right now we're watching it. This could, if it does have one more leg up, I'd probably draw it like this to try and roughly gauge where that next move might be. So if it did have one more push up and it was kind of respecting this structure, yeah, even if this comes down a little bit, but let's say at some point it gets a push up here, I mean, this kind of tells you, right? Like this is the midline of the channel. If it rejects here, you're kind of looking for that lower high. So if we're going to get the lower high, it's probably going to struggle somewhere along the midline of this channel. Somewhere in here, it's going to struggle. It's going to give us the lower high. If it's going to put in a new high, then we're looking up here at these upper fib levels. God, that was kind of hard to say. Upper fib levels. Why is that hard to say? Upper fib levels. I don't know. But we're looking up here at the top of the fib channel, which also aligns with this line here, right? So this line here is the high of the Yo, are we still live? My setup crashed, but for some reason it looks like the room is still open. Are you guys? Yo, what the heck? How does that happen? No, I guess it was mine. I guess it was mine. I was just typing up a message on my phone saying, "Hey, my stuff just took a crap." Um, but I guess you guys can hear me now. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, look, it nuked for some reason. We're back. Let's see if we're stable here for a little bit. Let me try and pull this chart back up. And we'll kind of resume this thought here. Yeah, that was so weird. That was so weird. Let me see here, trading view. Yeah. Heck. You know what? It's good to know though that it's good to know that Encore, that's hilarious. It's good to know that TradingView will keep the stream rolling even if the host or a participant, I guess, gets disconnected or whatever happens. You know, that's good to know. Quickly be able to jump back in and resume the stream. So yeah, I thought I was gonna have to like kick one back on either right now or just wait till I ran one later tonight. So well, appreciate you guys that stuck around. It looks like some people are still around here, even though it nuked hardcore there. I gotta read stuff after this. Update everything. Updated my Linux kernel midstream. Nah, I do need a reboot though because I did do some updates earlier today. Your voice is a little choppy. Maybe X is having issues. It could be on the X side. There has been a warning about X on this thing. It could also be my network. I don't know what dropped me though. My network signal is good right now. Everything looks fine. So, anyways, I'll kind of wrap up the thought, which was, look, we're gonna watch BTC as it's pushing up here. I was sharing with you guys that this line, this yellow line that's at the upper end of that channel, that's just the top of this range. It's actually the top of the 3-day range. So if you go to no, are we doing it again? Are we doing this again? No, we're not. If you go to a 3-day chart, it was just the top of this 3-day range, which we pushed out of and just fell back inside of. So as far as I'm concerned, we're still inside of this 3-day range, this blue candle here. That's the top of that range right here at 72.2, bottom of the range down here at 60k. So this next move could be coming back up to try and test a breakout of that range once again. We do have previous year low, which is that low from March, April of last year. That's around there. And then you do have the 21 EMA up there as well on the 3-day chart. So there are some key levels as we kind of move up there. That's what that level at the top of this 15-minute chart is here. So if we were to get a push on BTC up towards that level, this is that 3-day level. So you got the 3-day level, you've got previous year low up here, you've got the deepest part of that low volume node right there. So we'll see what happens. Now, if this melts, right? If this just comes down and starts melting, and we break this low, then I'm looking for a lower high. After this, I don't care how high it goes. I'm looking for a lower high because now I've got lower lows, right? I'll have boom, lower lows. So now I'm looking for a lower high, whether that's a move that comes back and just rejects here the underside of that channel, or even if it doesn't go all the way up, I'm just going to do a lower highs. So we'll see what happens there. And it's pretty much the same exact thing across all the other majors. So that's kind of why we didn't really spend a lot of time on it. You just saw the same thing. You saw moved to the upside, failed, back inside the range. Same thing. You've still got clear structure here. Like nothing's really broken here yet. So you're just kind of waiting for a break, either to the downside or a move back up to the top of the range. Same thing will apply with Solana. So if you go to Solana, same thing. Essentially had a sweep of the highs, immediately barted back down. So at this point, same thing. You kind of just got a range. And you're just kind of trying to figure out, okay, where's that bounce coming? Are we bouncing here? Are we about to lose it? The good thing is you've got clear invalidations. We've got clear structure. This is very clear structure here. This low is the one you need to be eyeing. Move below that low tells you one thing. A move above that high tells you another. You know? Nothing better to do. Content blitz. That's hilarious. Well, that's a good thing that the stream did not shut down. What a crazy thing. I'm still tripping on that a little bit, but it kicked me off and it just came back. Yo, appreciate that repost, TSM, by the way. Quote repost. Very nice, very nice. Very, very nice. It is windy outside, though. It is windy as heck. I wonder if that's why the network is kind of iffy. Some high winds today. Any questions though, guys? If you have any questions about this BTC structure, about why we shorted, about what we're looking, where we're driving targets for, upside downside moves, any of that, let me know. And are we going to get that final push up here, Ash? That's kind of what I want to know. Like, is there one more push up here? Getting through this will be interesting. I don't know that it would get through all of this. I really don't. That's a nice gap in the profile right here. But could it come up here and tag it? And then that sends us back down. And then down here you've got monthly open somewhere down here, weekly open, previous month low. All of that is down here. All of that is to the downside here. Let's turn some of these out of this beautiful gentleman suite really quickly, so we can quickly observe those levels. So we're trying to bounce on the 50% of the previous week. Interesting. Is it trying to flip that? I think we talked about this as well, Ash, right? It's like you've got initial rejection at that level, push up, flips it, confirms it as support. Is it maybe trying to go higher? Yeah, that is actually interesting. There is a case to be made here for a flipping of this 50% of the previous week, which is coming off of this high here, essentially. Very interesting, actually. If it does break down, you've got monthly open here at about 66.9, weekly open at about 65.9, previous week low at 65.2. And then, of course, previous week high up here on the high of last Wednesday. Dude, this is interesting here, this structure here. This is, I hadn't really looked at it through this lens. This is why it's helpful to have these markings, but putting it like that, putting it as a zone here, it does give me some clarity. It does give me a little bit of clarity on what could be happening here. Look at that. Tell me that that's not actually quite beautiful. It's very clean. Yeah. Could we be trying to flip this to push higher? It does mean, though, that once this does break to the downside, though, so here's the other take of this level here. If this does support, like if this does hold a support, and then we have another move higher, right? So if this does support, if at any point we come back down to this level here and lose it, a retest of that would be quite bearish, and it would definitely be the level to be watching on these lower time frames for continuation down to these lows and even these lows down here. This is the level to watch. I don't know that I see another level that is as important as that here currently. Yeah, even this. Look, even the fact that boom, this is a key level right here, 69, huh? Interesting. With the whole range, it's not as. I mean, it's like where you come into this big chunk of volume here. That's kind of where it drops off. So that is interesting. This little pocket here is kind of interesting. This whole little pocket here, like that. That's probably how I'd mark it out. Actually, is if I wanted to. Let's say I called this low time frame support. It's kind of like a low time frame support that's being established right now, this entire zone, where it was previously, back here, you would have called it, like over on this side, you would have called it low time frame resistance, right? So over here, that would have been resistance, especially after these rejections over here. You got rejected. You knew that every touch that you were going to get after this rejection up here, you knew that there was a good chance it was going to reject. Here, you actually got your breakout of that. Boom, on volume. And then on the way down here, it tried to support it, but it melted. And then here, I think the question is now, right? The question is, so that wouldn't have been support there, not yet. You would have been expecting it to, but it failed. I guess the question is, are we trying to flip that back into support here in the immediate? Are we trying to turn that back into support? Or is it just going to get rejected from it again? And then this level, this was just a failure. If this comes down, right? If this comes down and then ultimately just rejects here, all of these, both this price action and this here, all of that would have just been failed attempts to break out of that. It's kind of how you have to think about that. It would have just been failed attempts. Very interesting. I'm going to leave it like this just for the immediate price action. I'll be watching it here. This is definitely interesting, the way that's moving. And yeah, I think we do need to be prepared though for potentially another new higher. It will be interesting to see if Asia comes down and takes these lows though before going higher. Or does it just go higher now? But either way, we're going into the gap. I don't like to take a lot of trades during this time, so I'm mainly going to be chilling. Observing, and watching what happens here. I'm going to hold on to this. I'll put everything at break even. Comes up here. No harm done. And then we'll see what happens. But let's see. All right, let me just catch up on these comments, and then I think we're going to log off. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's a big level. Agreed, dude. I didn't really pay attention to that. Also, I'm suspicious of how big this next wave needs to be to get there. It would need a lot of volume. Agreed. Very much agreed. Cool, guys. With that, we're gonna wrap it up. I think here, like in 30 minutes, I believe Cade will be on with Infra, talking about some macro stuff tonight. So if you're into macro news and all of that, set a reminder. Tune back in. Let me confirm, and I'll tell you guys what is coming up. Yeah, so at 5:30 Eastern, macro, housing, and BTC. With a couple of the regulars. So I think Kate will be hosting that. or at least helping with that. So tune in for that, guys. Hey, appreciate that. Yeah, look, that's kind of my hope in doing this is my what I do is it's definitely not the like the end all be all by any means, and nor is it like the ultimate way to look at this stuff, but it's what I know, and I'm happy to share what I know and what I'm doing. So yeah. No, we'll catch you in the chat, Ash. We'll talk about some other stuff to coordinate as well for some upcoming streams, dude. For sure. But yeah, very happy to share anything that I know, what I know, and just kind of give other people that opportunity. Mentorship and being able to watch people who had more experience than me. I won't even say that they were masters or new at all, but just people who were further down the road than I was when I started was very helpful to me. Even if ultimately some of those people left the game, or even if I ultimately, lapped those guys at some point, it didn't matter. Like they all like there was a lot of people that contributed to me figuring some of this stuff out. So I'm always very thankful for that and for everyone who was putting out free content and even the stuff I paid for. I'm very grateful that they were charging me, but they didn't have to sit there and put together content for me to consume and buy. So still very appreciative of that. And I'm just kind of returning that favor, right? With creating content, putting out what I can and hoping it helps someone else. So, but yeah, with that, guys, I think we're going to wrap it here. I'm going to log off, get me a meal, get me a bit of fresh air. It's windy as heck outside. I'm going to go outside, get a little bit of air, a little bit of sun, stretch my legs, walk the dog a little later. I don't think we're going to the park today. It's too windy to go to the park with kids, but maybe later this week. But with that, appreciate all you guys. Thank you for jumping on. Thank you guys for engaging. Appreciate all the likes, the reposts, all the comments, all the engagement. You guys are amazing. The best community, hands down, the best community right here on Wolf Bitcoin. It doesn't matter if you're into trading, investing, macro, any of that. The Wolf Bitcoin community is number one, and really all of the Wolf ecosystem is doing amazing things. So, shout out to Wolf, shout out to Ostium for making this show a possibility, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.